Hey, what's going on, everyone? It's Kyle Henderson and Andrew Bone. It felt like we were just doing this 24 hours ago. Tuesday night is recruiting. Big day of news on Monday. You had the schedule come out. You had Alabama's first practice. You had Nick Saban's press conference. And then today you had Steve Sarkisian. Alabama had their second practice. We caught up with Dylan Moses and Devontae Smith. And guess where you can get all that coverage at? BamaInsider.com. So definitely, if you're a subscriber of our YouTube channel, you're getting all that coverage right now, and you can get even more in-depth coverage at BamaInsider.com. Been dropping those team nuggets that you can't get anywhere else. Bone, what's up, man?
What's going on, Kyle? How are you tonight?
Grinding, and there's so much football coverage to go over, and people are like, man, don't you get tired of like working so much? No, this is what I came to Tuscaloosa for. I came here to compete with the best. Savages want to work with savages, right? So always on the grind. And tonight we talk recruiting and big news last night with Jalen Milroe jumping on board, and we'll take a quick look at the overall class. Bone, I mean, talk about a truly dynamic class of 2021.
Yeah, it certainly is. I mean, Alabama is certainly hitting on all cylinders right now on both sides of the football. And, the last, 4 days have been just outstanding for the Crimson Tide. Picking up two big commitments on Saturday in Monkel Goodwine and Kyrie Jackson, who we both, predicted both of those guys were going to end up committing to Alabama. Kind of had a good feeling on both of those kids, but of course you never know until they announce. So it was a big day for Alabama on Saturday. And then, obviously a huge day for the Crimson Tide on Monday as Jalen Milroe flipped his commitment from Texas to Alabama. We've talked about him several times throughout the year, just as a potential target for the Crimson Tide, somebody that they were continuing to recruit, somebody that they really wanted to get on board. But I wasn't really that confident in terms of, I didn't think Alabama was going to be able to flip him right off the bat. I thought that he needed to get back to Tuscaloosa once again, kind of refresh his memory, kind of what made him really fall in love with Alabama in the first place last summer when he visited Tuscaloosa and before Drake May committed to Alabama. Really felt like he was heavily leaning towards Alabama last summer prior to May's commitment. And then once May gave his commitment, he ended up committing to Texas, which I felt like was his number 2 school. Now, obviously, he was committed to Texas for several months, more than a year, actually. And then, once kind of COVID hit, I said, it's going to be probably tough for Alabama to get him on board, at least, flipping him. They need to get him back on campus some way, somehow. And, they were able to get him to flip without visiting again, which, I think there's a lot that goes into that. Now, I mentioned this on the Bama Insider recruiting board today. And there's a lot of different people who are out there who are saying, oh, well, he flipped because he's scared of competition, because Quinn Ewers, the number 1 quarterback in the country out of Texas, committed to Texas over the weekend. Class of 2022 guy. Texas signed 2 quarterbacks in last year's recruiting class. Everybody keeps saying all these different things about why he ended up flipping to Alabama. Well, people forget that Alabama signed the number 1 quarterback in the country, number 2 overall player in the Rivals 100 in last year's recruiting class. This kid's not scared of competition at all. He knows who's ahead of him in Tuscaloosa, who's going to have a year ahead of him before he gets to Alabama. So, he knows what it's going to take. He's going to a championship caliber program. He knows that there's elite players at every single position in Tuscaloosa. So, he didn't take the easy road, excuse me. He's going to a program that, has elite players, and he's going to have to compete every single day. So I think it's a bunch of, just frankly bull crap that people are saying that, he's scared, that he's worried about competition, because clearly he's not, because Alabama signed the best quarterback in the country last year.
All right. So before we go, we got to give Paul Robinson a quick little shout out for the super chat. We certainly appreciate it, Paul. And we're going to take care of Paul in just a minute. But before we answer his question, I want to talk about your book, Bone, that's coming out shortly. And can you please tell fans where they can purchase your book and kind of give them a little bit of intel on the road to Bama, incredible twists and improbable turns along the Alabama Crimson Tide recruiting trail?
Yeah, thank you, Kyle. Really excited about the book. 18 chapters. Each chapter tells the story of a former Alabama great, from the Bear Bryant years all the way to the Nick Saban years, and everything that you need to know about their life growing up, their recruitment, everything that kind of went into their decision. And there's a lot of just fantastic stories. I was certainly honored to speak to so many Alabama greats, people that I grew up, idolizing. That I just felt like we're the best players in Alabama history, and luckily, I grew up in an Alabama family, and knew all of those players. I was, I know all about the history of the Alabama football program. I didn't just start covering Alabama football when I was 18 years old. I'm about to go into my 18th year of covering, football recruiting, but I've been around Alabama football my entire life here on earth. So it was really an honor to speak with so many different people and write this. This is my first book, so I've always kind of had an itch to write a book one day, and I felt like it was probably going to be centered more on the guys that I covered throughout these last 18 years. But I was very fortunate with the publishing company, kind of their direction that they were wanting to go in terms of going all the way back to the Bear Bryant years and picking out certain players. I was able to choose which players I wanted in the book. Now, obviously, I don't think I got everybody that I wanted, but I certainly got a lot of big time names, college football Hall of Famers, NFL Hall of Famers, and guys who were All-Americans in Tuscaloosa. So it was really exciting. I was very fortunate to have Jay Barker write my foreword, and talk to so many great players overall. So really excited about getting it out there. It comes out September the 29th, but you can go ahead and pre-order it on Amazon, Books A Million, Barnes and Noble. There may be some other websites that you can go to. I guess I don't know all of them, but those are the three that I really know about that you can go on and pre-order right now. And I hope Alabama fans enjoy it. I think it's a great great story with each one of these guys, and certainly something that I think people are going to be very interested in.
All right, good stuff, Bone. And we'll certainly put the link to where you can buy that book in the description. And anytime you read a recruiting article on BamaInsider.com, you can scroll to the bottom and hit that link to buy Andrew's book. Bone, so we got a lot to talk about. And now is a great time to post your recruiting questions inside the comment box. And as I said earlier, let's be sure and take care of Paul Robinson. You're hitting off leadoff tonight. Why do you feel Tim Keenan waited so long? And did it cost him his spot at Alabama?
Yeah, for those that don't know, Tim Keenan, in-state defensive lineman, rated as one of the top 10 overall players in the state of Alabama from Ramsey High School in Birmingham. Is going to be announcing his decision on August the 29th. Just recently put out a top 5: Alabama, Georgia, Georgia Tech, UAB, and LSU. Now, I do think he ends up going out of state. We kind of felt like he was an Alabama lean very early in the process. Now, Tim Keenan's one of these guys that, started getting recruited when, after his freshman year in high school. It's not like his recruitment began, a few months ago. He's been recruited for a very long time. But in my opinion, I do think he may have waited a little bit too long because, Alabama not really taking a lot of interior defensive linemen in this recruiting class. They do have 2 interior defensive line commitments already, Damon Payne and Anquin Barnes. I think they will possibly take one more, but that guy's name is probably going to have to be Mason Smith, the number 1 defensive tackle in the country, according to Rivals.com out of Louisiana. Alabama's really focused in on defensive ends in this recruiting class. They picked up a big one over the weekend in Monkel Goodwine. There's still several other guys that are out there that they're heavily recruiting. And, think about it like this. There's 19 commitments in Alabama's class right now. Yeah, I don't know how many they're going to take. I think they'll probably get to 27. That's kind of the number that I've been, hearing for a while, 27. So not a lot of spots remaining in this class. Still some key positions of need. Still some big-time targets that are out there. So with his decision coming, here in the next week, I think he's probably, week and a half, I think he's probably going to end up going elsewhere. Hearing a lot of talk about Georgia at this time. Georgia's really pressing for him. They're also pressing for his teammate, Jeremiah Williams, who we thought was going to make a decision here, in the last couple of weeks, but has held off from making a commitment. It's been kind of an Auburn-Florida battle for him, but I think Georgia's really kind of pressing hard for him here lately, and could possibly end up getting both.
All right. Good stuff, Bone. And thank you very much, Paul. We certainly appreciate the super chat. I need to show real quick the super chat leaderboard, and this isn't updated. I mean, because you guys have been crushing it out there. So thank you very much. Here's our super chat leaderboard. If you don't know what a super chat is, it's basically a tip to the staff. How do you do this? Well, you go on YouTube and you hit this $ right there, and it actually goes right to Andrew Bone. So if you want to tip Andrew Bone for all the great work that he does on BamaInsider.com, now's a great time. So the super chats go to Bone. So there you have it. As we continue to move with the show, Jeremiah is asking, will Alabama take 3 wide receivers? Will there be one more on board? As everybody knows, Malcolm Johnson recently committed to Auburn. First, before you answer that, Bone, were you surprised that he committed to Auburn? Kind of let's talk about Malcolm Johnson, and then you can answer Jeremiah.
We've talked about Malcolm Johnson, several times on the show, and I even said that I felt like Alabama had a great chance to land his commitment. And I've been saying that it's probably going to come down to who decides to commit first between Malcolm Johnson and Brian Thomas. And when Malcolm Johnson announced his plans to commit last Friday, we started asking around, and everybody was that we spoke with kept hearing Auburn, and wasn't really sure what had changed over the course of the last couple of weeks with him, because all the talk was kind of centered around Alabama, but as we kind of found out, he plans on reclassifying and joining the 2020 recruiting class rather than being in that 2021 class. Alabama didn't have room. They just weren't going to be able to take him in 2020. Of course, they would have taken him in the 2021 class, but with him planning on reclassifying, obviously Auburn had a spot for him and Alabama didn't. But I think he's going to have a tremendous success down there. I think he's one of the best receivers in the country, very underrated in my opinion, but certainly one of the fastest overall players. Now, will Alabama take more than 3 receivers? I believe they will. They do have 3 right now, 3 elite guys in Ajay Hall, Christian Leary, and Ja'Cory Brooks. Now, obviously, other schools are still coming after those guys, hoping that they flip, trying to entice them to flip to their schools. Christian Leary still heavily recruited by Florida. Ja'Cory Brooks also heavily recruited by Florida and Miami. But I think as of right now, I think all those guys are going to be very solid. I think they stick with their commitments. They may not even take additional visits down the road. But I do think Alabama at least tries to get one more guy. Still kind of focused on Brian Thomas, big time wide receiver out of Louisiana. I think it's still an Alabama LSU battle, and this is a recruitment that's going to come down to the wire. It's back and forth. It's been Alabama in the lead, then LSU, and back and forth we go. There's still some other guys that are out there that they're recruiting, but in my opinion, I think they're going to wait and see what happens with Thomas before, making a move on anybody else right now. Xavier Worthy, who committed to Michigan back about a month ago, he was certainly a guy that Alabama liked a lot. And I think if he would have visited Tuscaloosa, they were going to have a really good chance to get him. And we'll see if he potentially visits in the future. We don't know if any visits are going to happen at this point. We know no visits are going to happen at least through September. So if official visits are able to happen down the road, maybe he gets back. Destin Payson, another wide receiver from the state of Louisiana. Alabama's still in communication with him as well. But like I said, I think they're gonna wait on Brian with Malcolm Johnson going to Auburn. I think they're gonna wait, see what happens with Brian Thomas before making a decision on somebody else.
All right, good stuff, Bone. And thank you very much for the question, Jeremiah. All right, we're moving on. Tanner has a great question. Bone, is this the best coaching staff that Saban has assembled from a recruiting standpoint?
I think it's hard to say that just yet. They've had some great staff members. I mean, you had a coaching staff a few years ago with Kirby Smart and Jeremy Pruitt and Mario Cristobal and Billy Napier, and I mean, it was there were certainly some unbelievable coaching staffs. Lance Thompson. The list goes on and on. So I don't know if you can say that just yet, but last year it was a lot of the guys on their staff. It was their first year, on the recruiting trail, trying to, get their bearings and try to fill everything out. And now in their second year, they're putting together an unbelievable recruiting class, one of the best that I've seen, just on both sides of the football. I mean, they're getting it done on both sides of the ball. I think we're going to see some guys really move up in the rankings, in the updated rankings, and throughout the senior season. And once recruiting analysts are able to go out on the road and see these guys in person because we know a lot of high school football games are going to be happening throughout the country. So that's going to be a big evaluation tool because we weren't able to see a lot of kids throughout the spring and summer like we normally do. So that's going to change this fall, but the staff is certainly hitting on all cylinders right now, and it's been very impressive. Some of the guys like Charles Huff, Jeff Banks, Carl Scott, a lot of these guys have been doing wonders right now. Kyle Flood, you look at the offensive line class he's been able to put together, so far. It's just so impressive. Guys that, I would say a year ago, nobody would have thought they were going to end up in Alabama's class. And now Alabama's got probably the best offensive line class in the country.
Good stuff. We got another question coming in, and a bunch of questions. Keep posting your questions in the comment box, and I'll get to them when I can. If you could hit the thumbs up button right now, we'd really appreciate it. We're almost actually closing in on 35,000 subscribers right here on YouTube. So if you're not a subscriber out there, if you're watching on Facebook, be sure and jump over to YouTube, subscribe so you never miss content from the BamaInsider.com staff. Steve Sarkisian's press conference, I just loaded it. You got Devontae Smith and Dylan Moses from today. You got practice footage, and of course, you got those team nuggets at BamaInsider.com. Remember, the promo code is simply Roll Tide at checkout. Great question coming in from Dorsey talking about any defensive end news. You got Corey Foreman, Tumisa Adelie, JT Tuilamola, Shamar Turner. We talk about it weekly. What's the latest on Tuesday night?
Well, there's the reason we talk about it weekly, because it is a key position of need for Alabama in this recruiting class. And there's a lot of guys who are still out there, but a lot of guys who plan on waiting a little bit longer to make a decision. Obviously, Alabama got a big win on Saturday in Monkel Goodwine. I think they get at least 3 defensive ends in this class. I think that's at least the goal at this time. Tumisa Adelie, who just recently decommitted from Ohio State, I think he's certainly a name to keep an eye on in the upcoming months, because he is close friends with Jalen Milroe. I think it certainly helps Alabama having Jalen Milroe on the commitment board, because that can be a major recruiting advantage for Alabama in terms of having a close friend, somebody that he's played with in high school at Tompkins High School in Katy, Texas. I think that's been certainly a big help for the Crimson Tide there. JT Tuilamola, Corey Foreman, those are some guys out on the West Coast that Alabama's in it with, but we just don't know how in it are they. Corey Foreman has Alabama in his top 7. I think they're probably in his top 5, top 6, but probably on the outside looking in. JT Tuilamola, I think Alabama's in it, maybe top 4, top 5, but we've all been talking about how Ohio State's been considered the favorite for him for a very long time. And obviously with Tumisa Adelie decommitting from the Buckeyes a couple weeks ago, I think, that makes Tuilamola even more important for them. So we'll kind of have to wait and see what happens with those guys. I still think Shamar Turner, as of right now, I would predict him to Alabama. Tyreek Sapp's another guy that's committed to Florida right now, but still says that Alabama, Ohio State, very interested in those programs. Chambry Jackson out of Orlando, probably a top 2 of Alabama and Florida State, in my opinion. Now that's somebody that's very interesting, because a lot of people are predicting Florida State for him. Do people really know for sure, or are they just kind of guessing? We see him tweet all the time about Florida State, but he also tweets a lot of stuff about Alabama. So I think it's pretty close between those 2 programs at this time. And Alabama certainly would take a commitment from Chambry Jackson as well. So he's certainly another name to keep an eye on.
All right, we got Ronnie. What's going on, Ronnie? Thank you so much for joining the show tonight. What do you guys think of Jalen Milroe's commitment to Alabama? And we had talked about if Alabama's going to take a quarterback. You said many times before that Alabama would take a quarterback, just trying to figure out who that quarterback was. We got the tip that it was going to be Jalen Milroe, flipping from Texas. We talked about it last night. We really dove into it. Let's talk to Ronnie a little bit more about that commitment, how you feel it'll be impactful for this class of 2021.
Well, I think it's a great commitment. Alabama, as we've said many times before, they wanted a quarterback in this class, and they wanted an elite guy. They really didn't want to, have to settle for maybe a plan 2, a tier 2 type player. And, everybody kind of knew that, Bryce Young signing with Alabama last year, might scare some quarterbacks off, and it might be tough to sign a tier 1 guy in this year's recruiting class. But Alabama was able to get Jalen Milroe to flip his commitment from Texas. I think he's an elite quarterback. He's one of the best playmakers, in not only in the state of Texas but in the country. And getting him on board to come in, compete with Bryce Young here in the future, I think is a tremendous addition. I think it's going to help out the recruiting class because now you have a quarterback who's going to be very active, going to try to recruit others to Tuscaloosa, including his good friend Tumise Adelier. So we'll see kind of what happens moving forward. But getting a quarterback on board, I think it's always a very big positive, because they're going to try to take the reins and try to become the leader of the class.
Yeah, it was a big commitment. So thank you very much, Ronnie, for the question. Moving on, let's see what else we got here. Okay, how about this? We need Kool-Aid. Everybody's asking about JaQuincy McKinstry. It'll actually be an action Friday night. Hopefully we can bring some coverage to you based off that game. They're playing Hewitt-Trussville. Bone, what's the latest on, one of the most talked about prospects? It looks like maybe Auburn might be gaining a little bit of momentum. What's the latest?
Well, I don't think anybody really knows what he's going to do. I think anyone who's predicting him to Auburn simply just going off of a guess. I think anybody who's predicting him to Alabama or to LSU is simply going off of a guess. I just think it's all a guessing game right now for Kool-Aid. 3 or 4 months ago, I would have said Alabama, without a doubt. 2 months ago, everybody was on the LSU train with Kool-Aid. Everybody just kept saying, "Oh, he's going to lead the state. He's going to go to LSU." Now everybody seems to be on the Auburn train with Kool-Aid. So clearly, I don't think anybody really knows what he's going to do. I think he has an idea of probably what he's going to do. I do think, and I've been saying this for the last few weeks, after Chad Simmons did an interview with him, I felt like it was going to come down to the in-state schools. And, obviously LSU's there, but with him saying Alabama and Auburn are recruiting him harder in basketball and how that's such an important factor in his decision, I do think that because of that, he's going to end up staying in state. So we'll see what happens. Will he make a decision sometime soon? I think he will. But in terms of having a solid prediction on what he's going to do, I just, I don't have one right now. I wish I did, but he's very interesting in terms of trying to figure out what he's going to do. And he's kept everyone guessing. And it's going to be one of those 3 schools. He'll shock everyone if he goes somewhere else, but I don't think he'll shock anybody if he chooses one of those 3 programs.
All right. Yeah. And be sure and stay tuned. We might have some coverage from his first game of the high school football season this Friday night. So little nugget of what's to come on BamaInsider.com. Another question in from Paul. Bone, who's Bama's biggest target that has committed elsewhere?
Ooh, that's a good question. Malcolm Johnson was such a big target for them. They really loved him a lot. I probably wouldn't lean that direction. Obviously, they've done really well on the offensive line. God, it's a tough question. Maybe Jordan Hancock, elite cornerback. Alabama's recruited defensive back really well so far in this class, but Alabama just had a very, very high interest and, considered Jordan Hancock an elite prospect. But, I feel like, Alabama's DB class is very good right now. I don't know. That's a great question because, obviously, they got their quarterback. There's some running backs out there that they would have taken. But in terms of, Kamar Wheaton still remains uncommitted. Wide receiver wise, they got 3 guys that they, pretty much had at the top of their list. Brian Thomas is, still out there. So they, certainly want to get him. Let's say I'll throw out a tight end, Jermaine Terry, who's committed to Cal, somebody that Alabama was very high on throughout the entire process, probably one of their top 2, top 3 tight end targets in this recruiting class. I think they felt like they had a shot with him, but he ends up committing to Cal and staying closer to home. So that's a name that they were really heavily interested in.
Nice job, Paul. That was the first time Bone's been stumped this recruiting.
Stump me.
So, nice work. I love it. What about all right, what's up, Nathan? We see you. Thank you so much for the question. Bone, who's your sleeper that has not been picked yet? Or is not committed, rather?
Yeah, I said this. I've been mentioning this one guy a few times. Christian Zachary. Very talented defensive end, outside linebacker from Carrollton High School in Georgia. Didn't play a lot during his junior season, was injured. I think still had maybe 6 sacks during his junior season. Now, if Alabama has room, I think they could potentially, fit him into this class. And I hear that he's a favorite of Nick Saban's, somebody that he really likes a lot, and has taken a personal interest in and has been talking to him via Zoom calls. So that's somebody to kind of keep an eye on, because we haven't talked about him a ton. But we always talk about these other linebackers and defensive ends that are out there that Alabama is still recruiting, and obviously Alabama has a tremendous linebacker class so far. So where does he fit in? Is he potentially a linebacker in college, or is he a jack, or could he potentially grow into a defensive end? I think Alabama wants to see him early on in his senior season, and try to figure that out and decide if they're going to press forward for him.
All right, we got bombs coming in. So Bomb is dropping bombs, and we appreciate it, Bombs. Thank you so much, man. Sincerely appreciate the super chat. We also got another super chat coming in, and thank you so much, man. This is like I said, all the super chats go directly to Andrew Bone. So we appreciate you guys.
Thank you very much.
Certainly chiming in. That certainly helps the cause. Let's get to Bombs first. How many more open spots does Alabama have in this class?
Well, as we know, Alabama currently has 19 commitments in this class so far. I think they're going to get to 27. It might be 28, but I think they'll at least get 27. So not a lot of spots left, and there's a lot of guys who are out there. And I kind of broke it down on BamaInsider earlier today. Obviously Alabama got their quarterback. Might get another running back, might get a running back, but maybe not. Maybe they don't take another running back or a running back in this class. Wide receiver still trying to get one. Offensive line. Maybe they get one, maybe zero. They have 4 offensive line commitments right now. I think they're very happy with those guys, and still, a handful of other offensive line targets out there. So may end up taking 5. Defensive line, still some guys out there that they're heavily recruiting. I think at least 3 more defensive linemen in this class, linebacker wise. Could take 1, could take none. And then defensive back, still some key targets out there. So I think they would at least take maybe 2 more at that position. So we'll kind of wait and see what happens, but I think they're going to end up getting to 27 when it's all said and done.
Next question coming in from Chris Flex. What's up, Chris? We see you. Thank you so much. Status on Terrion Arnold, a prospect that, would be very impactful for this class.
Yeah, Terrion Arnold just recently tweeted, I think it was a couple of days ago, that he's going to narrow down his list. Finally, we haven't seen him narrow down his list in quite a while. I think he's got a pretty big list right now, but maybe he trims it down to a top 5, maybe a top 3. We'll see kind of what happens maybe within the week or so. But big time target for Alabama, somebody that they have always felt like he was a priority target, in my opinion, a tier 1 type guy on Alabama's recruiting board that they would hold a spot for until National Signing Day. And you see him rated as the number 209 player in the country right now. I think a lot of that has to do with just not being able to see him, not being able to go out and evaluate him. But, he keeps putting up all these, different videos of working out and training. And he's an impressive player. A lot of people think he's probably going to end up playing safety in college just because of how physical he is on film. And, he's a 2-sport athlete, has several scholarship offers in basketball, including one from Alabama. So Alabama certainly considers him a top priority recruit, but looks like nothing's going to happen anytime soon with him. We're going to have to wait it out, maybe closer until National Signing Day for his commitment. But Alabama remains, very steadfast in their pursuit of him, and he's a top priority target.
And I guess following up with what Rashad is asking, if Alabama was to miss on Kool-Aid, Terrion Arnold, just as you said, is one of those guys. Is there anyone else defensive back-wise that Alabama kind of has their eye on? You've talked about, I think, Sage Ryan a couple times.
Yeah, there's a few guys that are still out there. Terrion Arnold, as we mentioned, Jordan Gilbert out of Louisiana, and Sage Ryan out of Louisiana. Those are two guys. Now, I'd be shocked if Sage Ryan ends up in Tuscaloosa. It's because a lot of connections at LSU. LSU fan growing up, very close to Baton Rouge, and he also has a cousin who is recruiting him from LSU, and Kevin Falk. So it might be tough to pull that one, but I do think the Alabama really likes Jordan Gilbert a lot. Obviously, really likes Terrion Arnold a lot. But let's look at the overall defensive back class right now at Alabama. You recently picked up Kyrie Jackson, big commitment there, 6'3", 195 pounds. Recruited to play corner. Now, most people will say, well, 6'3", he's probably going to end up playing safety. No, Alabama likes him as a cornerback. Alabama also really likes Devontae Smith, Smitty 2.0. Alabama really likes him a lot as a corner, and I think he's got the ability to play that. Kadarius Callaway, yeah, I think everyone just assumes he's a safety. Now, he could play a safety. He's 6'1". He's listed at 196 pounds, but I think he's a little bit closer to maybe a little bit closer to 210 pounds right now. This guy ran a 5. That'd be bad if he ran a 5.40, a 4.50 at 6'1", 210 pounds. I know a lot of Alabama fans love to see this guy play safety, but he also has the ability to play corner. So I think all these guys, Devontae Smith, Kadarius Callaway, Kyrie Jackson, all of them have the ability to play corner or safety. I think that's that's obviously the biggest disappointment about summer camps not happening is you get all these guys in camp, you work out with them, you train with them, you get them to work with Coach Saban, Coach Scott, Coach Kelly, Coach Golding, kind of figure out, all right, this guy can definitely play corner. This guy is definitely a safety, and that's the downside of not having camps this summer is not being able to figure that out until they get on campus next year. So you're evaluating kids at high school games on Friday nights, trying to figure out what they can play. But I think Alabama's really excited about all these guys because they're all very athletic, all have great speed, and I think any of them can play corner, except Kane Williams. I think Kane Williams is certainly a safety, maybe even an outside linebacker in college. But like I said, still some big name guys that are out there. Terrion Arnold, DeQuincy McKinstry hasn't committed anywhere yet, so don't give up on him just yet. And guess what? If he does commit somewhere, he hasn't signed yet. So Alabama, if he ends up going elsewhere, Alabama can recruit him all the way until he signs on the dotted line. So we'll wait and see what happens, with DeQuincy. But like I said, Terrion Arnold, Jordan Gilbert, Sage Ryan, all prospects on the DB board that Alabama is still heavily recruiting.
All right, now is a great time to hit that thumbs up button. Please like and subscribe. That certainly helps our channel get to other Alabama Crimson Tide football fans. After you're done watching this video, we got more stuff for you. We got the Steve Sarkisian press conference. You need to go watch that. Sarkisian, very well versed, back for his second year with Alabama, making $2.5 million, the highest paid assistant coach in the entire country. Talks about his health scare. Remember, he just had heart surgery. Talks about the quarterback room. Talks about Jalen Waddle. Talks about a lot of stuff. So definitely check that out. Also dropped Devontae Smith's interview from today, along with Dylan Moses. And of course, those team nuggets that you can't get anywhere else, go to BamaInsider.com. You don't have to wait every Tuesday or, wait till we get on for the coverage. We bring everything to BamaInsider.com first. You're probably out there wondering, well, how do I become a member of BamaInsider.com? I'll just show you how. Free 30 days right here. Hey, what's going on, everyone? It's Kyle Henderson of BamaInsider.com. This is how to get free 30 days on BamaInsider.com. First thing you got to do, go to BamaInsider.com and click on the top banner. The next thing you're going to do is you're going to create an account, email, username, password. The second thing you're going to do is confirm your subscription. Make sure that the promo code is entered right here. It says promo successful, roll tide. The third thing you're going to do is enter your credit card information. It has to be valid, and don't worry, you're going to get that 30 days free. As you can see, once you've added a credit card, you're going to get the promo code. As you can see right here, it says $0. After that, you got to make sure and cancel within that 30 days if you don't want to be charged that $9.95. But hopefully, you're happy with all the coverage on BamaInsider.com, so you won't need to cancel. Once you're a premium subscriber of BamaInsider.com, you can access Andrew Bone's recruiting board. You can jump on the Talk of Champions message board and have a great time with thousands of Alabama Crimson Tide football fans. We hope to earn your business at BamaInsider.com. All right, so there you have it. That's free 30 days to BamaInsider.com. Thanks to everybody who contributes to BamaInsider.com. And I also forgot to say that I have some great practice footage from day 2 and day 1. So go out to the YouTube channel and check those out. Some great stuff. How about this one, Bone? Daniel's asking, who are the top 3 running backs that Alabama is recruiting?
Top 3. I don't know if Alabama has the top 3 running backs, but we'll throw some out there. Kamar Wheaton's probably the number 1 guy, number 1 running back in the country out of Texas. Alabama certainly has done well in the state of Texas this year with 4 commitments. The Brockmeyer twins, Kendrick Blackshire, and here recently Jalen Milroe. So getting another big time player from the Lone Star State would be huge. But as of right now, I think most people believe he's going to end up going to Oklahoma. Texas is certainly a strong contender in his recruitment, but he's also mentioned LSU. I mean, those are the schools those are the 4 programs that he really likes a lot. He's trying to, wait this out. I think he's probably going to, I've heard for a while that he's going to wait. Now, there has been a little bit of chatter here in the last, week or two that a decision could be coming soon. And I do not think that bodes well for Alabama if that does happen. I do think that if he ends up committing here soon, I think it will be for Oklahoma. But if he decides to wait, potentially visits Alabama, then they're going to have a shot. But as of right now, I think he ends up going to Oklahoma. Alabama is recruiting another running back in the state of Texas, Alton McCaskill. Somebody that they recently offered. I'd say recent. It was a couple months ago, but somebody that might be kind of a fallback plan for them. Somebody that they like a lot, and somebody that reminds me a little bit of Kenyon Drake on film. And so he's potentially the next guy if they decide to take a running back, somebody that they like a lot. So keep an eye on him. And then Armani Goodwin is currently committed to Auburn. Probably going to be a little tough to flip his commitment. Hewitt Trustful running back that's showing a little bit of interest in Alabama, but grew up an Auburn fan, grew up in an Auburn family, and has been committed to Auburn for over a year. So I think it's going to be pretty tough to flip his commitment. So in my opinion, Alabama either ends up not signing a running back or potentially getting one of these guys, but I could easily see them not getting a running back in this class.
All righty. How about this one coming in? Glenn is asking for any updates on the class 22. As we start to inch our way to the class 2022, who are some guys that you kind of see on Alabama's radar when we look ahead?
Yeah, Alabama currently has 2 commitments. At one point, they had more commitments in the 2022 class than they did in 2021. And they have Robert Woodyard, linebacker commitment out of Williamson, and Jeremiah Alexander, who's also a linebacker commitment out of Thompson High School in Alabaster. Both in-state guys, both 4-star players. I think Jeremiah Williams currently rated as the number 46 overall player in the Rivals 100, and Robert Woodyard just outside the Rivals 100. I think he's maybe 113, and I think a lot of that has to do with he missed his entire sophomore season, so nobody was able to see him during his sophomore year, and the spring would have been a great evaluation period for him, but now having to wait until this season. So we'll see what happens with his ranking, but elite player there, and not playing his sophomore year and being 113 in the country. I think that shows that the Rivals staff thinks pretty highly of him, but. Yeah, it's still kind of early in my opinion in terms of some of these other 2022 guys jumping on board. I think we've seen Ohio State get some big commitments. Deshaun McCullough, big time linebacker that committed to the Buckeyes today. They were really loading up kind of early on. Alabama probably taking a little bit more of a slow approach. I mean, they've offered several guys who are out there, and we've mentioned different players every single week on BamaInsider. Done some great interviews. Different quarterbacks, running backs, wide receiver, defensive lineman, a lot of guys that are out there. I don't think the list has really been condensed just yet, but a lot of big names. And check out the new Rivals 250 that came out today in the Rivals, on Rivals.com. Just go to BamaInsider. Click on Rivals 250 Class 2022 and see all the guys. Walter Nolan, defensive lineman out of Tennessee, rated as the number 1 player in the Rivals 100 for next year. Certainly a guy that Alabama has recruited, and all those guys that you see on your screen right now: Walter Nolan, Damani Jackson, Denver Harris, Jaheim Singletary. All those guys have Alabama offers and heavily recruited. So we'll keep an eye on a lot of these players throughout the next several months.
All right. And just as Bone said, you can go to rivals.com and definitely check out the Rivals top recruiting rankings for the class of 2022, and stay tuned for the class of 2021 rankings that are about to drop, right, Bone?
Yeah, that's right. Next week, the updated Rivals 100 and Rivals 250 in the 2021 class. Yeah, I don't know how big of an update it's going to be, and I know we've been talking about how they're going to just do this major overhaul, and I do think it's going to change. I think we're going to see a lot of changes that are going to take place, but we're also going to see a lot of kids who are probably still kind of in a holding pattern. Maybe some 3-stars that aren't going to move up just because nobody has seen them in such a long time that they want to see. And a lot of these schools are going to be having high school football games this fall. So a lot of these kids are going to get seen. We're going to see a lot of, we're probably not going to see a ton of 4-stars move to 5. Probably going to see some, but I don't think it's going to be a complete overhaul. But we're going to see a big update next week, and really looking forward to seeing all the changes that are made.
All right, Bone, go ahead and get that water, man.
I got that dry mouth right now,
Bone, we got a question coming in, and it's on Christian Zachariah. You've spoken about him before. 3-star prospect out of the state of Georgia, 115 tackles, as Cameron's saying. What's the latest on a prospect that you've mentioned and looks to certainly be on Alabama's board?
Yeah, Cameron. I actually mentioned him earlier. Kind of a potential sleeper surprise recruit who may be in this recruiting class. Yeah, he had an unbelievable sophomore season. Missed a lot of his junior season. So I think that's kind of the holdup with Alabama. They want to see him a little bit more. They want to try to figure out which position will he play once he gets to that next level. And obviously we know Alabama really loaded up in last year's recruiting class at outside linebacker, and they've got a absolute stud this year in Dallas Turner. Alabama's got a great linebacker class. I think they're kind of just waiting to, see him a little bit this upcoming season and then kind of go from there. But, he's certainly a guy that's on Alabama's recruiting board, somebody that they like, somebody that Nick Saban likes. And I think it's just evaluating him a little bit further. I think if he would have come to, Alabama would have been able to have a summer camp, come to camp, he probably would have been on the Alabama commitment board, because I know that they're really high on him. But I think they just have to evaluate him a little bit more.
All righty. Let's go through some more questions. Wesley's asking, Bone, how many times each cycle do you find out about a recruit's commitment to Alabama prior to them making it public? It's called having the scoop.
About 95% of the time. We do have a good feeling before a commitment happens. Now, not every kid we know about. There's a lot of kids who kind of keep things quiet, and we try to play it off as much as we can. We might know of a kid announcing for Alabama, but out of respect to them, it's their moment. It's not our moment. It's their moment. So we may say we like Alabama's chances, but I'm not going to come out and flat out say, oh yeah, Alabama's getting that kid. We'll never do that. Never have, never will. But there are a lot of times that we know beforehand, where a kid's going to go to school. But there's also a lot of times where we don't know, and there's a lot of times where we're told where a kid's going to go to school and he goes somewhere else. Mm-hmm. So that's happened just so many. I can't tell you how many times that's happened where even coaching staffs have been told, I'm committing to your school tomorrow, and then the next day comes, they announce for another school. So that happens all the time. I feel like we've done a good job of, building a relationship with just so many different people. There's so many different people that go into, these decisions. It's not just the kid, it's their family, college, it's not college coaches, high school coaches and so on. But I think, we've built a lot of trust throughout the last several years, and people can trust us in terms of telling us kind of beforehand. So, obviously, we put out a lot of content when these commitments happen. So we do have a good sense on where these kids are going. But it's also kind of tough with the out-of-state guys, because the out-of-state guys don't know us as well as the in-state guys do. And you have to kind of trust your sources in the different parts of the country.
And I think to build on that too, I mean, you have to think about all the Rivals affiliates out there too. I mean, there's a lot of guys that are dialed in from across the country that cover their particular school or their state. So, Bone and I certainly have been doing this for quite some time. So we've built up, a lot of good relationships with other writers, a lot of recruiting analysts from across the industry, and everybody's dialed in. So, this isn't some sort of part-time gig. I mean, this is how we get by, and bringing you that coverage that you deserve. And, that's why I say you don't have to wait every single Tuesday night for the scoop. I mean, you can get it every single day at BamaInsider.com. But good question, though. It's kind of behind the scenes. Cameron, again, what's up, Cameron? Chances of Tyreek Sapp flipping. You've spoken about that a little bit. Kind of just give Cameron what he's looking for on the short end.
Tyreek Sapp, currently committed to Florida, defensive lineman out of St. Thomas Aquinas down in Fort Lauderdale. Alabama's in it. I mean, they're recruiting him. They're talking to him. Unlike Jalen Milroe, I don't know if he's going to flip to Alabama without taking a trip back up to Tuscaloosa. I mean, Dallas Turner's certainly in his ear, about going to Alabama as well. But as of now, still very solid with his commitment to Florida. We'll see kind of what happens. Another school to kind of watch out with him is Ohio State, because he's very high on the Buckeyes, and they've recruited St. Thomas Aquinas in the Fort Lauderdale area extremely well, along with Alabama. So, that's a program that he really likes a lot. And, Tomise Adelier just recently decommitted. So, he may, be pressed even harder by the Buckeyes. So we'll see what happens with him. But, in terms of him flipping, I can see it happen. In terms of him flipping to Alabama, just don't know just yet. I mean, there's just so many defensive ends out there, so many possibilities, so many different scenarios that Alabama could end up with. I don't want to say I feel like he's going to flip just yet. I think Alabama's got a chance, but no, not ready to say he's going to flip to Alabama.
All right, good question. What's up, heavy hitter? We see you. I know it's early, but any news on 2022 running back Emmanuel Henderson?
Not a ton. I think he's kind of taking it pretty slow. He did grow up an Auburn fan, but attended Alabama's junior day earlier this year. I think one of the biggest question marks with Emmanuel Henderson is which position is he going to play now. A lot of people say he's a running back, but with his frame, he kind of looks a little bit more like a wide receiver. So I think this upcoming season, it's going to be a big evaluation period for him. A lot of college coaches are going to have their eye on him. He's certainly a top target for a lot of schools, including Alabama, but just trying to figure out exactly which position he's going to play. Does he want to, 100% play running back? Will he be open to playing other positions? I think that, those are kind of the biggest question marks heading into his junior season.
All right, moving on. And thank you very much for the question, Heavy Hitter. We appreciate it. Daniel's asking, what 4 or 3 stars will become 5 stars when the rankings come out?
Well, to be honest, Daniel, I don't know just yet. I would throw you a bone there if I knew, but yeah, I mean, I think some of the guys that we're going to watch out for, next week in terms of their rankings, it's obviously the two of the guys that are 3 stars on Rivals right now, that I think are deserving of 4 stars is Kadarius Callaway and Devontae Smith. Really high on both of those players. And Quinn Barnes, I can kind of see them keeping him as a 3-star just to evaluate him a little bit further, because Rival staff just hasn't seen him in so long, really since before his junior season. So I think they want to see him probably a little bit more. But I think Kadarius Callaway and Devontae Smith are very deserving of a 4-star ranking. And like I said, I want to see Anquan Barnes too, because he is a massive, massive player. He looks like he has rebuilt his body, and he looks really impressive just in some pictures that I've seen. And I think he's got a chance to really move up the recruiting board in terms of his overall ranking. But in terms of 4 stars who could potentially move to 5, J.C. Latham is probably the biggest one that I think could make a move all the way from 4 stars to 5 stars. But, as long as kids have their, football seasons, there's going to be a lot of eyes on guys like Dallas Turner, Christian Leary. Those are some guys who can make a big move with a strong senior season. And, hopefully we'll get a chance to see these guys in some all-star games after the season as well.
All right. We also got, let's see, a couple more questions. We'll be around for a few more minutes. So Now is a good time to get those questions in. And you can, of course, catch us back at BamaInsider.com. Don't forget to hit the thumbs up button right here and to subscribe for future content so you always know when we drop our latest video or the latest news on Alabama football or Alabama football recruiting. And just to be clear, Bone, can you tell everyone when the Rivals rankings will be updated for the class of 2021?
Yeah, the update is expected to come out next week. Kind of what they've done in the past is they've released the 5 stars on Monday. They released the Rivals 100 on Tuesday, the Rivals 250 on Wednesday, and then 4 stars and position rankings on Thursday. So that is probably the plan for next week. And like I said, don't know how big of a change it's going to be for a lot of Alabama commitments or commitments overall. I think we're going to see some changes, maybe not a ton, just because I think a lot of now that we're seeing a lot of high schools, a lot of states are having high school football this season. I think a lot of guys are kind of anxious to go out on the road and evaluate these guys in person.
All right, well, I wanted to ask you about this. This is coming from me. Here are the Rivals recruiting rankings. Let me see if I can zoom in a little bit more. So you got Ohio State, Alabama, Florida, Tennessee, Oregon. And those are the teams right now in the top 5. Now, I want people to understand that when Oregon and Tennessee are up there, you got to also look at that star ranking average, because as you're about to see, when I sort the teams by the star ranking average, things change. You have Ohio State up at the top, Alabama at the number 2 spot. Then you have LSU and Clemson. And as you can see by the star ranking average, Ohio State 3.89, Alabama 3.84, LSU 3.81, Clemson 3.8. And real quick before I go to you, Bone, think about this. That class with Tua Tagovailoa, Jerry Jeudy, all those guys, their star ranking average was 4.1. I mean, those are some NFL first-round picks in that class and some futures from that are going to be in the draft this coming year. Bone, talk about the Rivals recruiting team rankings right now. Alabama certainly making a push and could possibly give Ohio State a run down the stretch.
Yeah, no doubt. I think when you look at the average star rating, it's the who's who of the best programs in the country right now. Ohio State, Alabama, LSU, Clemson, and Georgia. USC. We used to be accustomed to seeing USC in the top 5, top 10 every single year, and then there was just a significant drop off the last few years, and a lot of we started seeing a kind of a mass exodus of the top players in the state of California leave, whether that was to go to Oregon or go across the country. We've seen just so many top players from California leave the state, and now we're seeing a lot of top players in California stay home. I mean, that's going to be huge for them if they're able to get Corey Foreman on board this year, potentially finish with a top 5 recruiting class. But it's still still who's who of the college football world and the college football recruiting world. And no surprise at any of those schools right now. I do think Alabama is really going to challenge Ohio State for that number 1 overall spot. I mean, obviously, if they get one more commitment, right now they move ahead of Ohio State. That's just how well Alabama's recruited. And we're going to see, like I said, I think we're going to see a lot of changes in the rankings, not just next week, but, 5 months from now, the rankings are probably going to be, even more different. So we'll continue to watch, the changes there, continue to see who Alabama gets, who Ohio State gets. Because like I said earlier, Ohio State may have lost to Misei Delia the other day. They're still in good shape with some big time targets who are out there, including JT Tuiamola, who's the number 4 overall player in the Rivals 100. So they could get him on board. I mean, gives them a little bit more separation. But Alabama could potentially get to Misei Delia, and obviously there's still some key targets at other positions that they're heavily recruiting. So it's going to come down to the wire, and it's going to be very interesting to kind of see how it unfolds in the coming months.
All right, we got to take care of Charles Adams. What's up, Charles? We see you've asked this question a bunch of times on the comment box. So Bone, take care of him. What's the latest on Brian Thomas? I know you talked about some wide receivers earlier, but can you give Charles the update, please?
Well, yeah, with Brian Thomas, I think it's still back and forth between Alabama and LSU. I don't think he's in a rush to make a decision. I think he wants to wait a while. And I think that one of the biggest reasons he wants to wait is he wants to see a few of these schools that he hasn't visited yet. Texas A&M, Georgia, those are schools in his top 4 that he's never even visited, and keeps saying he wants to visit. So Alabama and LSU want him. They consider him a top priority target. So, they're probably going to have a spot for him whenever he wants to decide. So that's probably why he's waiting a little bit longer. But you can rest assured with, now that Malcolm Johnson has, is reclassifying and going to Auburn, it makes Brian Thomas even, he was already a top priority, but makes him even more of a top priority now. And I bet you, Jalen Milroe has probably already reached out to him as well.
All right, good stuff. Well, we're just approaching the hour, so thank you very much to everybody who joined the show tonight. Remember, tons of coverage at BamaInsider.com. Just dropped Steve Sarkisian's press conference. We also have Devontae Smith, Dylan Moses, of course, Nick Saban's press conference from Monday night. And you can watch, these guys just speak. I mean, they're so well spoken. These are the best coaches in college football. So really, when you watch them, watch it again just to appreciate and kind of really, go inside the mindset of Alabama football. I mean, this is stuff you can't get anywhere else. And of course, those team nuggets, hot and fresh, always at BamaInsider.com. If you're curious to get behind that pesky paywall, remember the promo code at sign out on BamaInsider.com is simply Roll Tide. My name is Kyle Henderson. He's Andrew Bone. My email is kyle@BamaInsider.com. If you have any questions about becoming a premium subscriber or how you can connect with us, certainly email me, follow us on social media, everything BamaInsider.com. Did you have a good time tonight, Bone?
Oh yeah, always a great time, and really appreciate the super chats by everyone. That certainly is very appreciative, and it certainly goes a long way. And always fun to talk to Alabama fans, and hope some of you who are watching the show, consider joining BamaInsider.com, because as Kyle said, this isn't just an hour-long show. This is something that we do every single day on Bama Insider. You can ask me a question at midnight. I'm probably going to be on there, and I'm going to respond to you. We got a great community of fans over there, and it's certainly a pleasure to talk to them every single day. And we got a ton of great content, from practice reports, everything, and including the recruiting coverage. So really hope to see some of you on there, and thankful for the ones who watch the show every week and are subscribers on BamaInsider.com.
All right, and just to program note, Wednesday night, I will have a live show at 8 p.m. I will talk team. You can ask questions. You can call into the show. So mark it down tomorrow night, 8 p.m. right here on YouTube. Just you and me, Kyle Henderson, and you guys. So thank you so much. And we'll talk team tomorrow after Alabama's had 2 practices going into fall camp. From beautiful Tuscaloosa, Alabama, he's Andrew Bone. I'm Kyle Henderson. Have a great day, and have a great rest of your week. And we'll catch you soon back at BamaInsider.com. Thank you very much for watching.